So today we have Lynn Smith joining us to present on how to find and use secondary sources on Nexis Uni. Lynn Smith is a training consultant with LexisNexis. She has a law degree and a master's degree in library studies, and she's worked for LexisNexis for over 20 years and has conducted countless training webinars for students. We do ask that you remain muted during this presentation. There will be a portion at the end where you can unmute yourself to ask any questions. If you do have questions during the presentation, you can also use the chat box at the bottom of the screen. So without further ado, I'm going to let Lynn go ahead and get started.
Thank you, Julia, and thank you so very much for giving me this opportunity to conduct a training session on secondary legal resources. Now, before I begin, I just kind of want to make sure that we all understand that in the legal world, we divide our resources into two different categories. We have what we like to call primary sources or primary authorities, and secondary sources and secondary authorities. Now, in primary sources, they are the actual laws, whether we're talking about, the US Constitution, the Ohio Constitution, statutes, whether we're talking about federal statutes or state statutes, cases, decisions, opinions. Once again, whether we're talking about from the federal level, the state level, regulations, whether we're talking about federal regulations or state regulations. So keep in mind that primary sources, primary authorities, those are the actual laws. However, in the legal world, we have secondary sources, and believe it or not, we love secondary sources. We love secondary sources because the concept is they will lead us to our primary sources. They would tell you about the important cases, decisions, statutes, regulations. Now, what are some secondary sources? Well, most of you are very familiar with the different types of secondary sources. Of course, we have law reviews and law journals. You have legal encyclopedias that we're going to take a look at also. You have things called treatises and restatements. So I want you to be aware that, yes, right now, what we're going to be looking at are secondary sources. And we love secondary sources in the legal world because, like I said before, they will lead us to our primary sources. But also, secondary sources are also very helpful, especially if you're doing research on an area of law and you're not familiar with that area of law. It's great because many of them will give you the background, the history. Let's take, for example, death penalty in our country. I like to say death penalty has had a very up and down history. And what I mean by that up and down history is that at one time in our history, the death penalty was constitutional. And then in the 1970s, it was the early 1970s, the Supreme Court said, no, death penalty unconstitutional. Then it came back like 2 years later and it said, no, death penalty constitutional. And since then, we've said, okay, it was okay to put someone under the age of minority, under the age of majority. And we all know what we talk about when we say the age of majority, meaning the age of 18. At one time, we said it is okay to put someone who was under the age of majority, meaning, under the age of 18 on death row, sentence him to death. And then the Supreme Court came back and said, nope, you know what? That's not right. So you must be over, at the age of majority or over to be sentenced to death row. And then the Supreme Court came back and said, you know what? Just because somebody is of the majority age, 18 or over, they got to have the mental capability. So we don't want to put someone who is, over the age of, 18 and over, but they don't have the mental capability, meaning they're mentally challenged, mentally impaired. So if you're doing any type of research on, capital punishment, death sentence, that kind of history is kind of good to understand how we've gone from, yes, constitutional to one point, no, it's not constitutional, to yes, it's constitutional, to now a lot of different, okay, it's constitutional, but we've got exceptions. We do not put anyone who's under the age of 18. You've got to have them, we do not want to put anyone who is mentally impaired. So that kind of information can be helpful. So that's another reason why we like secondary sources, because sometimes we need to get an understanding of the law. We need to get the background information. So with that being said, like I said, the focus of this webinar is going to be searching and finding information in secondary sources. Now, we're going to start with what I like to say is the easiest thing to do when it comes to doing legal research, and that is going out and retrieving a document if you have a citation. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in a legal citation. And what I am typing in is essentially what we like to call proper Blue Book citation. Now, some of you may be at the beginning of your collegiate career, so you're not very comfortable yet doing what we call proper Blue Book citation. So just so you understand what a legal citation for a law review and a law journal, the structure, the first number is the volume. So this is saying I need volume 105. And I want to search the Yale Law Journal. So we got Yale, that L is for law, that J is for journal. And the third and final part, which is also a number, is the page. So I want volume 105 of the Yale Law Journal, open up to page 1. Well, just so you know, it's not necessary to use proper Blue Book citation. I can run everything together, just like I'm doing here. If you notice, I took away the spaces. I put that Yale, that Y in lowercase, along with the L and the J. I took out the punctuation. Basically, you can type in proper Blue Book citation, or it's not necessary. You have flexibility. I'm going to click on my search. And this would take you right here to this Yale Law Journal. So you can read it. You would just simply start paging down. So that's one of the nice things is if you have the citation, whether you have a citation to a law review or a law journal or to a case or to a statute, type in that citation. It's not necessary for it to be exact, what we will refer to as proper Blue Book citation. You have flexibility. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to do a search through my legal secondary sources. So I'm going to type in, like I said, I want to find some documents that's talking about capital punishment. And want you to be aware that if you're looking for an exact phrase, put that exact phrase in quotation marks. But one of the things you have to remember is that when you're doing research, and this is not just legal research, this is research in general, it's always a good idea to try to think of a synonym or two, or is there other terminology that means the exact same thing? Well, we know capital punishment is not the only terminology that we use. We can also, the court or the author of that law review or that law journal could also use death penalty, death sentence, death row. So just like a little bit later, I'm going to do some searching and we're going to talk about free speech. Well, we know that one can use free speech or they can also use freedom of speech. So always just take that moment, that opportunity, and just try to think of, is there another terminology, another search term that I can use that means the exact same thing? And what I'm going to use right now is my or connector, saying look for one or the other, look for my capital punishment or death penalty or death sentence or death row. Now, what I'm saying is that one or the other must be in the document, or it may be 2 out of the 4, 3 out of the 4, or all 4, but one or the other must be in the document. the full text. And we're going to say and, using my and connector, and you can spell that word, that connector and out. But just for flexibility, I want you to also be aware you can use the ampersand, that wonderful shift 7. And I'm going to put in unconstitutional. So right now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be searching all legal secondary sources. And I'm saying go out there and look in the full text and bring back those documents that mentions capital punishment or, or death penalty or death sentence or death row and unconstitutional. Right now, just want you to be aware that the default, the date default is the previous 2 years. In that pull down, you have the option of doing all available dates, which is what I'm going to do. We provide you with some other date ranges, or you can customize. So I'm going to go with all available dates. The default for searching is all content types. And I can specify. So if I just want to search news, company information, but I'm going to do legal. And at this time, I'm going to click on this law reviews in law journals. Now, I'm going to be very honest with you all. Julia was kind enough to give you all my background. She told you I had a master's in information library studies and also have a JD. Going to be very honest with me. The law librarian in me, I cringe every time I see this law reviews and law journals, because in reality, what I need for you to understand is that you're really searching all of the legal secondary sources. Now, I know why we do this. The reason why we do this is because we do not want to put secondary sources, because we do not want people to get confused, because secondary sources, that concept is not unique just to legal research. And most people, when they think about law reviews in law journals, when it comes to legal research, they know that it is a secondary source. So when you see that law reviews in law journals, right now, I want you to understand that, yes, you're searching law reviews in law journals, but you're also searching other legal secondary sources that are also available on Nexis Uni. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and click on my search. I want you to be aware of something, and that is on Nexis Uni, there are no document retrieval limitations, meaning if you conduct a search and that search brings back 25,805 documents, yes, you may view all 25,805 documents. So there are no document retrieval limitations. What I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to start to page down. And as I start to page down, I want you to do me a favor. And I want you to look to the left side of the screen, because what I want to point out are what we like to call our post-search filtering options. And what's great about the post-search filtering options is that we started very broad. Without knowing it, I search all legal secondary sources. So I'm going to click on this category. And as you will see, this will give us a breakdown. We're searching, of course, traditional law reviews in law journals. We're searching treatises. This jurisprudence, that's actually searching American Jurisprudence Second, better known as AmJur Second, which is one of the legal encyclopedias. And we're going to go into more details about that. You're searching some wonderful CLE information, CLE, continuing legal education. Once someone finishes law school, they have to take a state bar exam. And basically, long story short, in order to practice law, one has to pass a bar exam, that state bar exam. Just kind of a little trivia, everyone. A lot of people don't know this, but there is a difference between an attorney and a lawyer. I like to tell people that all attorneys are lawyers, but not all lawyers are an attorney. Basically, when we graduate from law school and we get that JD, that Juris Doctorate, we are lawyers. In order to get that attorney, practicing attorney, you have to take the state bar exam. So when I finished law school, I took the Missouri bar exam and I passed it. So not only do you have to take it, you also got to pass it. So now I am not only a lawyer because I have my JD, I'm also an attorney because if I wanted to, I have a license. I have a license to practice law in the state of Missouri. Well, I don't want to give my age, but let's just say I graduated from law school in 1997. So attorneys are required to continue their education in order to maintain our license. You've got to, continue to keep up to date. So the reason I'm saying all of this is because these CLE course materials, they're great because these are the types of materials that one studies or reviews to keep up to date on, the changes in the laws. So, and then we also have restatements. So I'm going to click on law reviews in law journals. And what this would do is go and get just that, those traditional law reviews in law journals. So now if I wanted to, I can say, you know what? I want to see law reviews in law journals from a particular jurisdiction or jurisdictions. So I want you to be aware, just be aware that Nexis Uni is a global product. So not only do, of course, we have legal information for the United States, we have legal information outside of the United States, case law from Canada, the UK, Australia, law reviews and law journals from around the globe. But if I want to see just those law reviews and law journals from the wonderful state of Ohio, I can click on Ohio. And this way, I would only get those, retrieve those law reviews and law journals from Ohio. But I'm going to clear this. I'm going to click on that X. But what if I want to see law reviews from Ohio, but also from California? I may do that. I'm simply going to go down to select multiple. And now I'm going to say California and Ohio. And click on OK. So this way, I am seeing only those law reviews in law journals from Ohio and California. So what's great about the post-search filtering options, as I like to tell people, you can use those post-search filtering options to filter down, to narrow down your search results. You may select one option, you may select multiple options. They don't have to be in the same grouping. You can mix and match. Now I'm going to go to sources, and this will give me a breakdown. And once again, if I only want to see those law reviews, or should I say the law journals from Ohio State, I can select Ohio State Law Journal. But what if I want to see the Ohio State Law Journal in conjunction with the San Diego Law Review? Select multiple. So you can select one option or multiple options. So here I'm going to go with my Ohio State Law Journal, along with that San Diego Law Review. Click OK. So I started very broad by searching all legal secondary sources. Remember what I said, when you selected that law reviews and law journals, you're searching all legal secondary sources. And then I just simply filtered down using my post-search filtering options by saying, okay, I only want to see those law reviews and law journals from California and Ohio, but more importantly from Ohio State Law Journal and San Diego Law Review. I'm going to go into a document. And I just want to point out some helpful features. Up at the top, you're going to see this all terms. And this all terms is telling us that our search terms are mentioned a total of 760 times. In the pull down, it's going to give us a breakdown. So we know that death penalty mentioned 79 times, death row 609 times, capital punishment 45 times, death sentence 23, unconstitutional 4. I'm going to select that unconstitutional. And using my little somewhat of triangles to the right, this will allow me to quickly and easily to get to that specific search term while I'm in the full text. And this is very beneficial, especially if you have a search term that's peppered throughout the document and you want to quickly get to that specific search term. You can select it, as I did with unconstitutional, and then I use my little somewhat of a triangle, or I could do all terms and use that. So this is just a nice, easy way to get to your search terms, especially when they're peppered throughout the document. So as you can see here, this is a document that found all four: death penalty, death row, capital punishment, and death sentence, and unconstitutional, because I indicated that you said and. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to return to my results list. And I just want you to be aware that when you get your search results back, they're going to be sorted by relevance, giving you the most relevant document first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down and I'm going to go to my least relevant document. And as you see, out of my capital punishment, death sentence, death row, death penalty is mentioned, but it's only mentioned once. And unconstitutional is mentioned. It had to be mentioned. Okay. Right now, what I've been doing is what we call full text keyword searching. And I tell people all the time, full text keyword searching is a blessing. It's a blessing because I can say to the system, go out there and retrieve every document that mentions my search terms, whether my search terms are mentioned, once, twice, 5 times, 50 times, or 100. Remember when we opened up that first document, we had a total of all of our search terms being mentioned 760 times, where, we saw that it was that death row was mentioned, over 100 times. And then we went to that least relevant document where our search terms were only mentioned once: death penalty once, unconstitutional once. Well, full text keyword searching, I like to tell people, is a blessing, but it's also a curse, because what we're saying to the system is just go out there and retrieve documents that mentions or search terms, whether they're mentioned numerous times or once. Well, just because a search term is mentioned once or twice doesn't make it relevant, doesn't make it on point. So what we're going to talk about, which is a great way to search, is what we like to call segment searching, better known in the librarian community as field searching. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go to my advanced search. And within the advanced search form, you have the capability of searching all of our content or specifying a content type: news, company and financial, legal. Well, I'm going to do legal. And here we see a nice breakdown. We got our administrative codes and regulations, administrative materials, briefs, pleadings, motions, cases. Here, law reviews and law journals. And remember, this overall law review and law journals is really trying to indicate legal secondary sources, which once again could be our, CLE materials. We're going to take a look at this: jurisprudence, law reviews, traditional law reviews and law journals, restatements, treatises. So I'm going to do my law reviews and law journals. Now, if I wanted to, I could do full text, all fields. But one of the things I want you to be aware of that's really nice is the capability to do what we call segment searching, also known as field searching, because the placement of a search term will also make documents more relevant, more on point. For example, if our search terms are mentioned in the title of a law review or a law journal, we know it's going to be truly, truly about that particular topic, that particular subject. So when I'm searching my secondary sources, I like to do this segment search, this field search of search the title. And one of the things I want you to be aware of, what's great about this product is, of course, you can do full text keyword searching, you can do segment searching, but you can do them in combination with each other. So right now, I want to point something out. What I always like to point out is I always tell people that the advanced search form, no offense, is a little misleading. It's a little misleading because right now you only see 2 search boxes. So sometimes people think, oh, I can only type in 2 different search terms. No, you'll see what I mean in a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I want my capital punishment. Once again, friendly reminder, if you're looking for an exact phrase, put that exact phrase in quotation marks. But I only want to search the title. My pull down, I'm going to select the or. And as soon as I did that, you see that a 3rd box appeared. Death penalty. Once again, I only want to look in the title. Or, so as I keep adding an additional search term, I get an additional search box. So I just want you to be aware that you're not limited to a certain number of search terms. You can continue on. So at this time, I'm going to put in that unconstitutional. And I can say do full keyword searching, which would be all fields. Or I can say, you know what? Look only in the title for my search terms of capital punishment or death penalty or death row or death sentence and unconstitutional. Only look in the title and just the title. Concept being, if my search terms are in the title, I know definitely going to be about that particular topic, that particular subject, which is what I'm going to do. So I only have 19 documents. This is very different than before when I was in my, the default page, the home page, and I typed, the capital punishment or death penalty or death row, and unconstitutional. Well, I was doing a full tax. So this way we know that these articles are truly, truly going to be addressing, the concept of, death row, death sentence, and the concept of it being unconstitutional, addressing, the constitutionality of, the death penalty. So if you notice, it only looked in the title. If I go down to my full text, we see our search terms are mentioned. Death penalty, but they're not in bold because they fall outside the scope of the segment. And the segment was, look only in the title and no other part of the document. So segment searching, very beneficial. And like I said, anytime I'm doing research through my secondary sources, I always do a title search. Because like I said, if it's mentioned in the title, I know it's going to be pretty much on point, relevant to that subject, to that topic. I just want to take this opportunity to point out some features. First thing I want you to be aware of on your documents, and this is just not law reviews and law journals or legal materials. You're going to see this throughout the product. At the top of your documents, you're going to see this box that reads Export Citation. This is one of your citation management tools. We ask, what is your selected citation format? In the pull down, you have APA, Blue Book, Blue Book is how one cites in the legal world. Chicago and MLA, select the appropriate citation format. You may highlight, copy, and paste, or copy to a clipboard. Another great thing about doing research online is the capability to link to related documents, related information. So you will see these nice little footnotes. So if I want to go to footnote 125, and this is citing, if I want to read this law review, which is a California law review, click on that hypertext link, or Southern California, I just saw that S, probably Southern California law review. I can, and I'm correct, Southern California law review, I can link to related information. So keep in mind that in the legal world, cases would cite to other cases. They would cite to statutes. Statutes would cite to cases, law reviews and law journals. Remember what we said. We said that one of the reasons why we like law reviews and law journals is they will lead us to our primary sources. Gregg versus Georgia. This is that landmark decision. Like I said, in the early 1970s, the Supreme Court ruled death penalty unconstitutional. Gregg versus Georgia, it was ruled was not unconstitutional. So basically, this is the case where they came back and said, nope, we were wrong that first time. We came back, so this way we can, see that information. So this way, within this law review, the law journals, they're giving us the capability to link to hypertext links. Just click on them and it would take you to that related information, that related document, just so you know. Let's go back to our advanced search form. And one of the things that we saw, gotta go to legal, go to my law reviews and law journals, is this jurisprudence. And that is actually short for American Jurisprudence Second. In the legal world, there are two legal encyclopedias. An American Jurisprudence Second, better known as AmJur Second, is one of those legal encyclopedias. I could search it right here simply by clicking on that, or I can go back to my default page, back to my home page. And one of the things I want you to be aware of about this search box is, I like to tell people all the time, that search box is powerful. Not only can we use it to go out and retrieve a legal document, if we have a citation, of course, we can use that box to, conduct a traditional word search, but we can also use it to find and select a source or sources. So I'm going to start typing in Harvard Law Review. And as I'm typing Harvard Law Review, the system's trying to anticipate my needs. It said, okay, Julia, here are some sources with Harvard Law Review in the name. So if Julia wants to search this Harvard Law Review in conjunction with another source or just the Harvard Law Review, she can just simply click on the name, the publication, and now she would be searching that Harvard Law Review. And she may want to be searching that Harvard Law Review in conjunction with that Ohio State Law Journal. Just click on that. American. And here I can click on that American Jurisprudence Second, better known as AmJur Second. So at this time, what is nice is Julia would be searching these three sources. These three sources that she found and selected. Now, one of the things I want you to be aware of is that as you get familiar with the segments, with the fields, it's not necessary to go to the advanced search. So I told you all that when I'm searching my legal secondary sources, I like to search the title. Well, I'm going to do that right now, and I'm going to type that segment, that field title. And in my parentheses, I'm going to put my free speech, or also known as freedom of speech, because we know they are interchangeable terminologies. I'm going to select all available dates. And right now, I would only be searching these 3 sources that I found and selected. So just be aware that when you go and find and select a source using this main search box, they don't have to be from the same geographical area. They don't have to be the same content type. If you wanted to, yes, you could mix and match. I'm going to go ahead and run this search. And if I go to my sources, I see I am searching my law reviews, the Harvard Law Review, Amjur second, American Jurisprudence second, and Ohio State Law Journal. So if I want to see just those articles from the Ohio State Law Journal, I can select that publication, open this up, and now you see that my free speech is mentioned in the title because I specified only look in the title, no other part of the document, of the article. And if you notice, and I always tell people, that's what I love about the search terms being in bold and highlighted in gold. It makes it much easier to find. You see it mentions that free speech, but it's not in bold, it's not highlighted in gold, because I put parameters. I set a segment search, a field search. I'm going to go back to my default page, and I want to point something out to you all. Let's do that Harvard Law Review. And just kind of want to point something out. You do not see anything. I'm just going to do a contrast. Bear with me. Now what I'm going to do is that American Jurisprudence second. You see this little symbol. Anytime you see this little symbol, that means you have the capability to browse through the table of content. That's letting you know that the information is what we like to say codified, codification, meaning put together by topics. So the way that Amjur is put together is that it's organized by topics, by subjects. So if I click on this nice little symbol for the table of content, one of the great ways to search this publication is browsing through the table of content, browsing through topics. So this way, if I wanted to find all the laws for let's go, let me just go down like this. For, well, not all the laws, I should say, all the secondary articles dealing with, let's go with wonderful marriage. I can click on this box with the plus sign, and this will expand. And so this will allow me to see general laws, general areas related to marriage. So if we wanted to see, in general, so, nature of, the relationship, government regulations. Let's go into that governmental regulations. And so this will, okay, validity, of regulations, affecting rights to marry. And what's great about Amjur is, of course, a national publication. So this way it's giving you kind of like the background information, but more importantly, we can link to cases that is addressing that specific topic or subject. So 7, let's just go back and take a look at what 7, in terms of the reference footnote 7, where it's talking about, where this is referring to equal protection and due process clause. Basically, we know that states cannot discriminate. And at one time in our country, it was illegal for people of different races to get married. But of course, that all changed with Loving v. Virginia. I always found it quite interesting that the couple's last name was Loving, but this is that landmark decision that said, individuals, it's a violation of their constitutional right to say they cannot marry someone just because they're of a different race, ethnicity. So just kind of want to point that out. So just to kind of recap, so if you have that legal citation, you can just type it in. And as we saw before, it's not necessary to use proper Blue Book citation. But of course, we know we can do a full text keyword search through all of our law reviews and law journals and all additional secondary sources by doing that law reviews and law journals. But more importantly, the capability to do segment searching, field searching. When you go to the advanced search, as we saw, we're going to go to legal, law reviews and law journals, jurisprudence. And so if somebody's like, well, Lynn, how do I know the segment, the field? Go ahead and select it. Like I said, as you get familiar with the segments, with the fields, freedom of speech. Let's say, look in the full text for Bill of Rights. We know the Bill of Rights are those first 10 amendments of the, U.S. Constitution. So here I'm saying, look in the title, just the title for my free speech and free speech or freedom of speech, but look in the full text for that Bill of Rights. So right here, this is showing you how it ran that search. So like I said, as you get familiar with the segments, with the fields, it's not necessary to always go to the advanced search. So, but one of the segments that I really use probably about 90% of the time when I'm searching my law reviews and law journals, of course, is that title segment. So this is looking in that AMJR, but it's looking in labor and labor relations. So here's that section, freedom of speech, but more importantly, Bill of Rights is mentioned in the full text. Just want to, as I indicated before, wanted to point out this export citation. Remember, I said that's one of your citation management tools, but I also just want to point out your other delivery options, just FYI. You may print, you may email, you may download, send information to a cloud using Google Drive or OneDrive, but I also want to point out another feature. Throughout the product, you're going to see the word actions. And if I click on that word actions on a document, it reads link to this page, meaning link to this document. So this is basically allowing me to create a persistent, durable URL, a permalink to this article. So if you're working on a group project with a colleague, yes, you can email them the document, you can download it and send it to them in an email, or you can just simply click on this action, link to this page, highlight and copy this permalink, and put it into an email. So just kind of want you to be aware of different ways that you can share information with others. Email, download it, and still send it through an email or some other means, but also this wonderful, create this link to this page, which is a permalink, a persistent, durable URL. Just copy it, send it to that individual. At this time, I want to stop talking. I just want to see if there are any questions. I've been kind of checking the chat and I didn't see anything. Usually there's some type of chatter going on, but I didn't see anything. So let's just see if there are any questions, comments.
Yeah, I don't think we have any questions.
Okay.
I was wondering if you could show, it's something that I'm familiar with, is the like all sources, where you could look at all the sources. I don't know if that might be helpful too, for secondary.
Oh, no worries. Yes, if you go to menu and you click on all sources, this will give you a nice alphabetical and numerical breakdown of all of our sources. But let's just be honest, most people have no time to go page by page by page. If you do, more power to you, but most people do not. So what you can simply do on the left side is do the search within sources or the narrow by. So if I wanted to, I can say, you know what? I'm going to click on law reviews in law journals. And this will give us all of those secondary sources. So here we have the different categories. So if I clicked on that jurisprudence, we have, of course, AmJur, and there are a few others, but when we're in law reviews and law journals and you're doing that jurisprudence, you're searching that American jurisprudence. Or I can say, you know what? I want just traditional law reviews in law journals. And once again, this is giving us law reviews in law journals. And I just want to remind you, not just from the United States, but also from around the world. So I'm going to click on international. And this will bring back just those international law reviews in law journals. So if I say, you know what, I just want to see those from Europe. Then here I have a nice little listing of all the law reviews in law journals from Europe. If I wanted to search them all, I may simply click on this gray box, add all these as a search filter, or you can always pick and choose. So if I wanted to do the Asian Journal of International Law in conjunction with the wonderful Butterworth's Family Law Service, if you click on these three dots and you click on Add to Search, that will add that Asian Journal of International Law, along with our Butterworth Family Law Service. So this way, I'm only searching those law reviews that I found and selected. So basically the all sources gives you the capability to kind of look at all of the different sources we have, because we have over 16,000 sources. You can go alphabetically, you can search within law review. So that's a way that you can go out and find different types of titles, publications, because we have over 16,000. How was that, Julia?
Thank you. That was great.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Well,
hi, this is Brian. No questions
Brian.
from me, but this has been very helpful.
Perfect. Well, hopefully you're coming tomorrow, someone, because we're doing Shepherds, and Shepherds is a critical part of the legal research and writing process. I would like to say in the legal world, it's not about old and new, it's about good and bad. So Shepard's is a critical part of the legal research and writing process because you utilize it basically to check the validity, to make sure that something is still good law, because if it isn't good law, we cannot cite to it, we cannot use it. So like I said, in the legal world, it's not about old and new, it's about good and bad, because we only cite to good precedent. So hopefully you're able to join tomorrow when we talk about Shepard's, like I said, which is a critical part of the legal research and writing process.